South Korea's key negotiators returned home following trade talks in Washington with their American counterparts. The presidential chief of policy said there was progress made on most key issues and expressed hope of reaching an agreement before the APEC leaders' meeting next week. An autopsy is set to be carried out in Cambodia today on the body of a South Korean college student killed in the country, as officials aim to determine whether there were signs of torture. Meanwhile, Seoul's foreign ministry said it's working to ensure that consular assistance is available at the Korean embassy in Cambodia, even outside of the embassy's working hours. Less than 10 days since Israel and Gaza agreed to a U.S. brokered ceasefire, Israel has launched airstrikes on Gaza. Hamas and Israel accused each other of violations, as medical sources in Gaza put the death toll there at a minimum of 44 people, while the Israeli military said 2 soldiers were killed. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. With only 9 days left until U.S. President Donald Trump's reported visit to South Korea for APEC 2025 Korea, negotiations between the two countries have reportedly made progress. This comes after South Korea's key negotiators returned home from Washington following talks with their U.S. counterparts. Our An Sung-jin starts us off.
Negotiations between South Korea and the U.S. may have seen some progress following trade talks in Washington. Upon arrival back in Korea on Sunday, Presidential Chief of Policy Kim Yong-bum stated that some progress had been made on most key issues, though some still need coordination.
The possibility of reaching a final agreement before the APEC 2025 Korea has increased through the visit.
No specific details were provided on the breakdown of the $350 billion investment in the U.S., such as the payment method or a potential currency swap agreement. Kim did, however, note that the U.S. is fully aware of the impact that the investment would bring to Seoul's foreign exchange market. The U.S. had previously demanded a full upfront payment of the $350 billion investment, whereas Korea had proposed an extended investment period of around 10 years or an increase in loan payments instead. Neighboring Japan is to be investing funds per individual project rather than a lump sum upfront payment. Meanwhile, amid ongoing trade talks, South Korea's key business leaders, including Chairman of Samsung Electronics Lee Jae-yong, Chairman of SK Group Chae Tae-won, and Chairman of Hyundai Motor Group Jung Hee-sun, gathered for a golf meeting with President Trump alongside business figures from Japan and Taiwan. Though details of the golf meeting haven't been specified, there's speculation on whether the leading figures from South Korea's chip, automobile, and battery discussed investments in the U.S. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, an autopsy is set to be conducted today in Cambodia on the body of a 22-year-old South Korean college student who was found dead in the country. Authorities say the procedure, which will involve 7 South Korean officials, aims to determine whether there were signs of torture before his death. Meanwhile, police have now arrested a key suspect linked to the case. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
An autopsy is being conducted by South Korean officials in Phnom Penh on Monday on the body of a 22-year-old South Korean university student identified only by surname Park, who was found dead in Cambodia. Authorities say the procedure aims to determine whether there were signs of torture before his death. The autopsy comes about 70 days after Park's body was found and will involve 7 Korean officials, including forensic doctors from the National Forensic Service. Officials say the examination is focusing on whether Park was tortured, mutilated, or drugged before his death. Once the autopsy is concluded, Korean authorities plan to cooperate with Cambodian officials to complete cremation procedures and repatriate the remains as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, back in South Korea, police have arrested a key suspect linked to the case. The suspect, a man in his 20s, is accused of being the main figure who lured Park into opening a bank account and later arranging his travel to Cambodia, where he was reportedly confined and killed by a voice-phishing crime ring. A pre-trial detention hearing was held at the Andong branch of Daegu District Court on Sunday, which approved the arrest warrant due to the suspect being deemed a flight risk. Authorities have been tracing the flow of money connected to Park's accounts and analyzing communications among those involved since the arrest of another broker in early September. Separately, 64 South Koreans detained in Cambodia on charges of related online scam operations returned home on a chartered flight early Saturday. According to police, most of them will face criminal investigations in South Korea as suspects in cyber fraud and illegal recruitment schemes. The ongoing autopsy, arrests, and repatriations highlight growing concerns over the escalating number of crimes targeting Koreans in Cambodia, prompting closer international cooperation between Seoul and Phnom Penh to combat online and job scam networks. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea's foreign ministry said that it's trying to improve the system to provide consular assistance even outside regular working hours at the country's embassy in Cambodia. Now, this measure was taken as a response to a media report that a South Korean national who escaped from a criminal organization was unable to receive timely help when they approached the embassy outside working hours. The ministry explained that the individual was instructed to temporarily stay at the security post at 7 a.m., but was assisted by an official who headed to the embassy before working hours started. On the economic front, South Korea's per capita GDP is expected to fall 3 places on the list of countries this year, from 34th to 37th. According to the Bank of Korea on Monday, the IMF's World Economic Outlook released last week showed that South Korea's per capita GDP stood at $35,962 for this year, a 0.8% drop from last year. Taiwan is expected to climb from 38th to 35th place, overtaking South Korea for the first time in 22 years. Despite the short-term decline, the IMF expects South Korea to surpass the $40,000 mark in 2028, with an estimated per capita GDP of $40,802. On the cultural front, with growing interest in Korea and thanks to the success of Korean animation K-pop Demon Hunters, the number of visitors to Nat'l Museum of Korea this year surpassed 5 million for the first time in its 80-year history. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Annual visitors to the Nat'l Museum of Korea have surpassed 5 million for the first time. According to the museum on Friday, a total of 5,016,382 people visited from January 1st to October 15th this year. Among them, 4.83 million were South Koreans and 185,705 were foreign nationals. This is a 69.7% increase compared to the same period last year. This marks the first time since the museum opened in 1945 that its annual attendance exceeded 5 million in a single year. A growing surge in interest in Korea attributed to the global popularity of Korean culture, including the success of the Netflix's animated series K-pop Demon Hunters, seemingly led to the record. An annual visitor count of over 5 million places the museum in the top 5 globally. According to the art newspaper, the world's most visited museum in 2024, for example, was the Louvre in Paris with over 8.7 million visitors, followed by Vatican Museums, the British Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and Tate Modern. The Nat'l Museum of Korea has 13 affiliated national museums across the country. And with growing interest in Korea, the total number of visitors to all of these museums went over 11 million as well. Visitors to the affiliated national museums accounted for over 6.2 million, a roughly 10% increase compared to last year's. Eyes are now on whether the total visitors to the museum could approach 6 million by the end of the year. The director of the museum said it will aim to become a museum where culture can be enjoyed in everyday life with more exhibitions and improved viewing environment. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Ejae, the singer and co-writer of the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack song Golden, is here in South Korea, her country of birth. Our culture correspondent Park Gon-woo had a chance to sit down with her.
Up, 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 Ejae goes, breaking records by topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 straight weeks. When Golden first hit number 1, She says there was one person she couldn't stop thinking about.
The first thing I thought of was 11, 12-year-old EJ working her butt off in the studio at SM. And it was, a little message to her, if it reached, that you did so good.
For more than 2 decades, she's faced her share of hardships, especially during her 10-plus years as a K-pop trainee. Though she failed to debut as an idol back then, she says every moment happened for a reason.
I never, ever thought I'd be a songwriter in my life. That was never in my wish list. It just kind of organically happened when, after I came out of SM, I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
She spent long hours working alone, training herself to be better at songwriting. Then came the pandemic.
When that happened, we had to stay home. So it was hard, but it was honestly, in a way, amazing. It was a great experience because that's when I actually learned how to teach myself how to record. And a lot of songwriters don't really know how to record themselves or mix.
Through lessons learned from hard times, she joined the K-pop Demon Hunters team and helped spark a global phenomenon. As excitement builds for a possible sequel, Ejae told us about her creative ideas without hesitation.
트로트, literally. That would be amazing. So we'd love to explore the 판소리 아리랑 world.
And with the soundtrack's success, Golden was submitted in multiple categories for next year's Grammy Awards, boosting her chances for a win.
Winning a Grammy Award is just truly something I wish I saw a fellow Korean American woman, Asian American woman in the industry to win. It would open doors for so many people.
After all these achievements, she reflects on what her younger self might say to her today.
What do you think 11-year-old EJ would tell you, seeing you now in one of your most golden moments of your life?
Oh my God, that's another emotional question. I think she'd just be thank you.
At the same time, she admits feeling pressure as expectations on her are so high.
Be like water. And I love that saying. That's kind of the concept of whatever comes your way, even if there's a lot of pressure, just do your best. Do whatever you can and 최선을 다해.
She also offered a heartfelt message to anyone chasing their dreams.
If my story helps, please work hard, be resilient, be kind to yourself, and also be kind to others. Everyone needs a little bit of kindness.
With that mindset, Ejae says she's working on her next steps, getting better at songwriting and exploring who she is as an artist, poised to shine golden as she was born to be. 박건우, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Tensions in Gaza flared sharply on Sunday after Israeli airstrikes killed dozens of people just days into the fragile U.S.-brokered ceasefire. The Israeli military says it acted after Hamas fighters fired weapons, including an anti-tank missile, and killed 2 Israeli soldiers in Rafah, calling it a blatant violation of the truce. Israel says its forces struck Hamas targets across Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Nusayrat, including 6 kilometers of underground tunnels. Hospital officials say 44 people were killed, including women and children. Among those killed was a senior Hamas commander. Hamas denies involvement in any clashes, saying it remains committed to the ceasefire, but warns new attacks could push the situation towards total collapse. Following the airstrikes, Israel says it has begun renewed enforcement of the ceasefire. Across the United States on Saturday, nearly 7 million people joined more than 2,700 No Kings protests, a massive show of resistance against what organizers call President Donald Trump's authoritarian overreach. Protesters chanted, "This is what democracy looks like," waving flags and yellow banners symbolizing unity. Organizers say the movement grew after mass immigration raids and the deployment of federal troops into Democratic-led cities. Speakers, including Senator Bernie Sanders, accused Trump of undermining democratic institutions, while demonstrators warned that freedom of speech and public services are at risk amid the ongoing government shutdown. In Paris on Sunday, a team of thieves pulled off a 4-minute heist at the Louvre Museum, escaping with 8 pieces of jewelry described as priceless from the Apollo Gallery before fleeing on motorbikes. Officials say the robbers entered through a window shortly after the museum opened. They cut through glass with power tools and grabbed jewelry dating back to the French monarchy and Napoleonic jewelry, including tiaras, necklaces, and brooches before speeding off. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the robbery as an attack on national heritage and vowed those responsible would be brought to justice. Authorities say the theft was likely carried out by professional criminals targeting valuable art. The bassist and founding member of Limp Bizkit, Sam Rivers, has died at the age of 48. The band announced his death in a social media post on Sunday, but did not disclose the circumstances of how he died. Limp Bizkit calls Rivers the group's heartbeat, saying his talent was effortless and his presence unforgettable. Frontman Fred Durst said he has shed gallons of tears and praised Rivers' ability to pull beautiful sadness out of the bass. Rivers previously battled liver disease and underwent a transplant before rejoining the band in 2018. Limp Bizkit rose to fame in the late 1990s with albums like Significant Other and Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water. The band said, "Rest easy, brother. Your music never ends." Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Many regions had the coldest morning of the entire autumn season so far. Arctic air has streamed in from the north, causing temperatures to plunge overnight nationwide. And because of the strong winds and the sudden drop, it feels like temperatures will be quite severe all day, so make sure to bundle up. The skies over the central regions in Gyeongsang-Pukto province will gradually cloud over. Rain is expected along the east coast with 5 to 40 millimeters in the forecast, and where the temperatures are the lowest in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province, that rain could turn into snow, bringing the season's first snowfall of around 1 centimeter. And frost is also expected in inland areas. And this afternoon, most parts will see temperatures going down 3 to 5 degrees lower than norms, topping out at 15 degrees Celsius here in the capital, Daegu, Gyeongju, at 17 degrees. Early winter mornings will last until Wednesday. Please take good care of your health with this sharp temperature change.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.